All right, so today we are here with a psychic medium, Brianna Miss Wilson, and she's a powerful telekinetic that I recently discovered, and I was just really blown away by what she can do. Um, like I said many times, I'm very impressed by people who can move things under a glass container and stuff. Not many people can honestly do that. People who can even like move really heavy objects like, rocks and stuff like that, sometimes even has like a really hard time moving, you know, things under glass container and stuff. So I was very impressed. So I wanted to kind of hear her story. So Brianna, that being said, could you briefly introduce yourself and how you got into spirituality and telekinesis and mediumship and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I've always been the odd one out in the family. I've always been the black sheep, so to speak. I could have been the gifted one in the family, I guess, because like it was kind of what made me stand out from my siblings. So I've always been able to sense energy. It was kind of how, like, because of my emotions and my senses are so heightened all the time, it can be pretty full on when it comes to picking up on energy in the room, or even just, if you're talking to somebody and the energy drops, you can feel it, or if it picks up, you can feel it. That's kind of where it started for me. So basically, I saw a ghost in my room when I was 15. I didn't even think to, the fact I've got its name, I could describe exactly what he looked like, everything, like flannelette shirt, jeans, belt, the type of belt he was wearing, everything. And to still get his name, I didn't even think then that was mediumship. I just thought that was a bit weird. So then it kind of traveled onto that. I had a near-death experience back when I was 4 weeks old, with no oxygen for 4 minutes. That's where I kind of think where it all came from. I'm not really too sure. But yeah, so basically I started off with just getting angel cards. I liked to pack angel cards, and it's just been on from there. I got my hand tarot deck, learned how to use tarot. That was when I started to learn how to use spirit properly. And then, yeah. So with telekinesis, I've always been into, like, it was just a dream for me. I had one dream, and then that was it. I kind of just was like, okay, I really want to give it a go. It's probably not going to work, but I'll give it a go anyway. And yeah, so I did. And probably within the first 6 to 8 hours, I actually started getting the paper on the needle to move outside of the dome. And then probably a week after that to 2 weeks after that, I actually gave it a go with under the dome. I think I've got it here somewhere, the dome. But yeah, it's a little plastic thing that I use sometimes. So yeah. And that's pretty much.
Yeah, that is so amazing. Like I said, for me, it took me maybe, I don't even know, it took me 2 weeks to move it, just paper itself, the side wheel and stuff, and then maybe another, I don't even know. Like I didn't. After that, I started just trying to move like a lot, heavier objects and stuff like that. It's trying to move multiple side wheels, and then like maybe like, gosh, I don't even know. Like a year later, I started to move things under, like a plastic container, and then eventually a glass container and stuff like that. And that took a while too. So I'm just really amazed that you picked it up so quick. But that definitely goes to show that how naturally gifted you are with this kind of stuff, and how much energy you have and stuff like that. So that's really impressive. So Brianna, we talked for a little bit yesterday, and you revealed to me that you don't really, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't really meditate or do any kind of spiritual energy raising training or anything like that. And you don't do any kind of yoga or anything like that as well, right?
No, only energy raising thing that I use is coffee. That's literally that's just coffee. Yeah, no, I've never really gotten into meditation. I've done it twice in my life. That's about it.
That's amazing. That is so crazy. Like, when I see someone that's gifted as you, I just can't wrap my head around it, because like I said, many times, I train intensely to achieve these feats and stuff, and people who can just do it like that, it's just, yeah, man, like I almost envy those people. I wish I had that kind of power,
It comes with a curse though, because everything that I can do, it's very hard to live with sometimes. So It's not always easy. It's not like the heightened senses of the bugger everything for me. And honestly, if I wasn't a medium, I don't know if I would be able to be telekinetic. So it's just like it's kind of like a God broke the mold when he made me, I guess. So.
I know there's a lot of fake mediums out there. There's a lot of legitimate ones. In your opinion, do you think all the legitimate mediums are maybe perhaps unaware of the fact that they can do telekinesis? What is your opinion on that?
As I said, it just depends on the person. I don't know if mediumship and telekinesis actually have anything like hand in hand. But I feel that because of the fact that I died when I was 4 weeks old, that could have been where it all came from, plus the trauma as well that I went through growing up. And it's just kind of like when you've got such strong energy, you get it so pent up, and that's kind of where you can start to use it. But with other mediums and that, there's a lot of fake mediums, yes, but with real mediums, it just depends on the person. It just depends on the person themselves. They might not even be into this sort of stuff because it's technically occult work, witchcraft. You know what I mean? So it's like some people might not even be into it. It just depends on, but yes, I do believe that if they really tried and applied themselves 100%, it's just people don't have the patience. They want results like that.
Right. That's certainly true. Very interesting. Okay. So, Brianna, you also mentioned that you also do like, remote viewing and things like that. To your understanding, the way you do remote viewing and mediumship, are they two completely different things, or what is your take on that?
Give me 2 seconds. So close the window. Okay, so with remote viewing, yeah, they do go hand in hand. They do definitely go hand in hand. So basically, remote viewing comes from my clairvoyant abilities. So it's clear seeing. Basically, when I'm channeling spirit, I did this reading last night. It was phenomenal, this reading, and it was like the imagery that I was getting was just so spot on, like just detail and jewelry and all that kind of stuff. So that's part of remote viewing. But I think remote viewing would be more used when it comes to, it can be more used to use lost objects, find missing people. A lot of people, especially psychics that do remote viewing, actually can get approached by forensics and the police as for assistance and whatnot, because they actually do see, outside of the normal level of perception.
Mm-hmm. Can you share some of your remote viewing success stories, case studies, and whatnot?
The first time it actually happened, I didn't even know what it was. I just thought that I was weird. But there was a friend of mine that went away, and he's like, just look after so-and-so while I'm gone, please. Make sure he doesn't get on, do anything he shouldn't be doing. It's, it's all good. Anyway, I had this god-awful feeling. It just randomly, and I had this, and I just kind of sat there, and I'm like, I think this person is at that person's house, and they really, like, I knew exactly what they were doing, and it was not good. It was not good, paraphernalia and all that kind of stuff, which is what he was supposed to be kept away from. And I literally saw them sitting on this person's bed in the garage, and I didn't even know they lived in a garage, but I even got the feeling of the blanket that was on top of the bed, like it was like a fleece blanket. It was like a blue blanket. That was I'll say J&J because they both started with J. I'm not going to disclose their names, but there was J&J sitting on the bed. And I rang Jay, and I'm like, you better not be with him, because if you are, I'm going to be coming over there to pick you up. He didn't answer me. And then I messaged the other one, and I'm like, listen, if Jay's there, you want to get him to call me as soon as possible, because I'm getting in my car right now to come over, and we're going to have a talk. Jay rang me immediately. He rang me immediately, and I said, you're with you shouldn't be, aren't you? And he's like, no. And I heard that person in the background who he was not meant to be with. I said, you're lying to me. You're lying to me. He's like, I said, I'm not there. I said, yes, you are. I said, how do you know that? And I'm like, and then I told him it was kind of like seeing it in my mind. And he goes, you're off the planet, mate. You can't just. And I said, yeah, but I can. I said, let me get. I described the room to him. I said, so pretty much you're sitting on the bed. The TV's there. You got your cabinet over there. You got your dresser over there, and you got your bathroom on the back of the left, right? And they're like, whoa! It tripped him out and made me a bit more of a freak in the area than what I already was. But that was the first time. The second time was, I think, my first psychic premonition, when I actually predicted my friend having a car accident. Really bad one. He survived, but yeah, that happened 2 years later. So it can happen there and then. It can happen for the future. It can happen for the past. It can happen whenever. But the most recent one was with my partner. I couldn't figure out like what he was doing, where he was, and then all of a sudden I just got the suburb that he was in, and I asked him, are you at this suburb? And he even went and checked his service location, thought that was left on or whatever, but no. So that was when he kind of realized that it was real at that point. You could use it as a form of stalking, but you wouldn't like to say that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Brianna, so it sounds to me like you're very, very good at sensing energies and stuff like that. That's probably why, because from my experience, I come from more of a chi and telekinesis understanding and stuff like that. But when I do TK, I'm essentially feeling the energy of the paper, and then I'm moving the energy around that paper and stuff like that. It sounds to me like you're really, really, really good at sensing energy, which is why you're able to do the things you can do and stuff. When there is like imminent danger approaching you, or like when there's like something like really good that's perhaps about to happen? Like are you pretty good at like sensing like, the future and stuff like that as well? And are you pretty good at reading people's energies and stuff like that?
Yeah, so basically, I can tell, I can figure out a person within the first 30 seconds of meeting them. But I like to think that everyone has the good in them that I have in myself. So it does tend to get me in a bit of a deep end sometimes. But when it comes to reading energy, I know when people lie. And it's almost like I can read thoughts. Like I can just, it's weird. Like, if a lady's, and if a guy and a girl are walking past me, I'll almost hear like, if it's related to me. So say, for example, if I'm, if I drop my cigarettes or if I drop something and I'll be like, I'll just hear those thoughts, and it's not my thoughts. It's not anything that I would be consciously thinking about. It's just kind of as I'm passing that person. So yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. And it's got a lot to do with living in the fifth dimension, if that makes sense. So it's also part of telepathy, which is what I'm also big on as well.
Telepathy. That is so crazy. I was just about to ask you that. My question was, do you have any experience with telepathy? I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, when it comes to telepathy, you have to essentially, the other recipient, if you will, has to also be very powerful, and like they have to be energy sensitive and stuff like that. Am I correct on that? I have no experience with
telepathy. You like, yeah. So basically, like, not every, well, I don't know. It just depends if you feel that you can do it. If you tell yourself that you can, you can. My son has autism, level 2, and he's completely nonverbal and he's 5. So the two of us will, and my partner's also telepathic as well. So if we say to Roman, my son's Roman, my little boy's name's Roman. So if we say to Roman, time to go clean your teeth, we will hear him back chat us in our head, and we will both respond to the same sentence that he's just said to us telepathically. And that's kind of how I know how it's like, it is real. So with telepathy, you can hear it in your own mind and your own voice, or you can hear it in their voice, or you can see images, you can get sent images. So with you, for example, say what color am I thinking of? First thing that comes to your head, what do you see in your mind?
Green.
Purple.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm not very good at it.
So you have to see that right there is the problem with most telekinetics. They just, I'm not good at it. Do you know what I mean? You've got to, like, it's just the images, but I'm very clairvoyant. I'm very visual, so I can see the color, feel the color. I can, it's just all about concentrating and say, for example, I'm sending you a shape. It could be a circle, star, or a square. And then I'll send it to you. You then pick it up, and then you tell me what it was, but you've got to not question it. Start with numbers. So you can start with numbers 1 to 3, 1 to 5. Start with little things. Get to know what you need to listen to in order to get that. But yeah, it's got a lot to do with also the reading of the energy as well. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you're reminding me of that stuff because I've always sort of gravitated towards, I guess you can say, I've always been the type of person that really gravitate towards stuff that's not so mainstream. You know what I mean? Like, and even with spirituality, like you're a psychic medium. So like a psychic mediumship is very well known, and I for whatever reason I just didn't gravitate towards that. I wanted to look into something that's more underground, if you will, and that's how I gravitated more towards telekinesis and remote viewing and things like that, and especially like stuff like moving the wind, like aerokinesis and stuff. That's like super underground knowledge as far as spirituality is concerned. And I've always, that being said, I've always gravitated towards stuff that's just not mainstream, and because of that I've always been a big skeptic and stuff. I came from the understanding of absolutely
so you should be skeptic. You should be skeptic.
100%. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, like, since I came from a very skeptical mindset and stuff like that, so I'm very analytical and stuff, and I do acknowledge the fact that that skepticism and analytical thinking of mine is probably what's preventing me from probably having a breakthrough, if you will, sometimes, like, you know what I mean, from having more spiritual experiences and stuff like that. So even though I am I would say I'm a fairly decently established energy practitioner, I still have doubts and whatnot, and all kinds of stuff, and
it's totally normal. Look, honestly,
I gotta work on.
There's a big difference between a psychic medium and someone who's just very good at social reading. And that's kind of where you should be skeptical. That you have every reason and every right to be skeptical of that, because there are a lot of charlatans out there. There are a lot of liars out there. And so when it comes to skepticism, just get yourself a really good medium. Get yourself a really good psychic. 30 minutes in a session. Honestly, like you will have a very different opinion afterwards.
That's amazing.
I love skeptics. I love dealing with skeptics. Yeah.
And not, I wasn't trying to say I was skeptical of you. I definitely know you're the real deal and stuff. But like I was just trying to make a point that
yeah.
I tend to kind of just I tend to become too analytical.
I think it's because you haven't actually had a proper reading with anyone yet, and I think that when that does happen and they give you proper reading, it will make you it'll push you on your own path. And a lot of people that I have read for have either been the first timers or they've just been scammed. And they'll even say to me, please don't scam me, I'm broken. It breaks my heart. So you've got every reason to be like that. And when your intuition knows that that is actually legitimately a psychic that is giving you that and giving you something to see, you're very practical, I feel. And when it comes to that, you're, unless you can see it, like the telekinesis, you're not going to really believe. You believe it, but you're not going to believe it. It's not going to solidify for you until you've seen proof, which is totally a normal thing. So,
right. Yeah, totally. Like I guess to me, when I first started out, embarked on this spiritual journey, I mean, mediumship is always one of the first things you find and stuff. And like I said, I for whatever reason, I just never, I don't know. I guess it didn't appeal to me for some reason. Like it didn't really. I didn't feel like, oh gosh, I want to learn this for some. I don't know why, but
it's because you probably, like in your past lives, you probably would have been more into this. Anything that you naturally can do as a gift, you've accumulated that ability over thousands and thousands of lifetimes, and that's why it comes naturally to you. So when it comes to you, you probably aren't a natural born psychic medium. You're probably not naturally a psychic medium, but you're naturally telekinetic. You can naturally do things a lot easier than what other people can. It's not to say that people can't do it. It's just you can do it a lot easier than what other people can. It's just comes more naturally to you.
Interesting. That is an interesting perspective. So speaking of, past life and, reincarnation and things like that, do you know your past life and do you know what you were in your past stuff like that?
I've had a few memories, past life memories. The last life that I had would have been late 1800s. It was my most recent one. I was held in a mental institution for study of telekinesis and clairvoyance.
Really?
It's called the Atticus Institute.
Wait, sorry, what is that called?
The Atticus Institute. Go and watch it. It's a true story.
Wait. So,
I'm not saying that that's me, but my last life was very much like that. I was held back and just medicated, made to do things because I could make things move. I could be clairvoyant. I could be a medium. I could say things, do things, and make things move that other people couldn't do. So, they kind of hold you there and they study you. They study you and they study you and they study you until you pretty much nothing left. They want to know what is in there that makes you tick. And if that means cutting you open to do so, then they will do just that. But they don't actually realize back then that that's going to kill you. So you're not going to get the answers that you want. That institute has actually been closed down. And another past life of mine, I remember one of them, and I remember this since I was a child. The last thing I remember was laying in I hate to say this, but I think it would be either an abattoir or a morgue. But there was drains at the bottom of the floor. There was silver benches and there was white tiles all over the walls. And that was the last thing I remember, just laying there and seeing, and I couldn't move. And, I don't remember the pain. I can remember the visuals. I've been burnt in past lives from being a witch. You know what I mean? Like I've had a few of them, and everybody does. Everybody does. You just got to start to remember them. And if you have foreign memories, so say, for example, if you have a random memory of you 1300s in Germany, that's likely to be a past life reading.
Interesting. So you believe that knowledge from a past life kind of carries over and stuff,
100%,
and abilities and whatnot as well, and all this kind of stuff. Wow.
That's what my partner and I. So we've actually had past lives together, and the past life that I remembered and he remembered, we didn't actually realize this, but he's actually got a birthmark on his back from where he was killed. In his last life. Yes, it's very faint, and you can see it's a very faint arrowhead.
And whatever this institute that you mentioned, is this was this place in America?
Yes.
Interesting. Wow, that is.
It's ATTITUC so yeah, ATTITICUS, Atticus Institute. Yeah, it's quite crazy, yeah. And like when I watched it, I'd seen like they'll bring you back actual footage and actual photos of what it was back then. And when you resonate with something that you remember in your past life, it gives you goosebumps. You remember it, and that's what they call past life memories. And that's where you can start to learn how to do shadow work, which is healing, which is why reincarnation can continue to happen, karmic debt.
Interesting. Do you want to stop the reincarnation cycle of yours and sort of?
I'm not coming back. If I have a choice in the matter, I'm not coming back. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to come back if I don't have to. I'm tired. I feel like I'm very tired spiritually. You know, I don't even feel in a way that I don't know. I don't want to seem like a crazy person. It's almost like I do everything I can to stay out of trouble because of the amount of lessons and karmic life lessons that I've learned over my past lives. I would have been lucky to have made it past 30 in a lot of my past lives.
Really?
Yeah, like there's been a time in this life where I've actually felt really scared of coming out with this sort of thing out of fear of being punished. He's going to punish me. They just, like, if anything, the video will get taken down. You get seen as a cuckoo, but you're not going to actually get punished for it. That's a past life fear. So any phobias that you have too is actually an indication of how you might have died in a past life. If you've got any obsession with any countries or anything like that. So, you know, there was this one person, she's like, she couldn't figure out why she was so scared of water. And instantly I started seeing her drowning in a car in a block valley into the station wagon. Windows were about this far from the top. She couldn't get out. And she's like, that's exactly the memory that I'm having. That's exactly the kind of thought that I'm having. I'm like, well, that's your past life memory. That's what you need to heal first. And they come up to you in order of being needing to be healed, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Do you think in your past life you mentioned that you were able to, like, you know, you were telekinetic in your past life as well. Do you think you were able to move heavier objects and stuff like that? Were you much more powerful?
I probably was back then. I haven't practiced heaps of telekinesis this lifetime because once I figured I could do it. Or just that you know, I didn't want to frustrate myself, but like I do practice it, but not as much as you might think. But back then, yes, I do believe that I was moving enough to make them actually lock me away in an institution like that. And Atticus Institute is an example of where I probably was in my past life, if that makes sense, where they make you, you know, they make you perform essentially for studies.
Interesting. That is very interesting. So do you intend, I mean, I know right now you do readings and you also do, you know, healings and stuff like that. Oh, let's talk about that before I forget. You know, yesterday you told me about the concept that basically you can feel the cold energy in the person, the hot energy in the person, and stuff like that. So if someone's, you know, body part somewhere is perhaps cold, you try to like warm it up. And if you're, is that kind of what you do? If it's hot, you try to make it cold.
But basically, so being a medical intuitive, all I got to do is get into your energy field, and I can see in my mind what's wrong. I'll be able to see where the inflammation is. I'll be able to see if there's a fracture. I'll be able to see if there's any, you know, anything. So basically, when it comes to that, it's if I feel that there's nerve damage in, say, your left bottom foot, that's where I will send the warm energy, and I will actually visualize 1, 2, hot energy, cold energy. And I'll visualize the hot energy coming from this hand, going down into your foot, going all around the nerves and all that kind of stuff. And as I'm doing that, I'll ask you to move. I'll ask you to move something, and that way you're getting results as I'm actually doing the energy. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely crazy. Honestly, like the first lady I did, she couldn't feel her feet for 9 years. I ring her back 3 hours after the healing session, and she's pointing the camera down to her toes, and she's like, I can't believe I can feel my feet. It was really cool. It was. And that was just because of the hot energy and the cold energy, getting the nerves blood flowing again, getting some blood circulation going again, all that kind of stuff. And just setting the intention of heat is usually a very, very good thing. When there's inflammation, however, on the other hand, inflammation is where you can use the cool energy to bring down the inflammation. You can bring down, if you've got like an egg somewhere and that's inflammation, or you've got an infection somewhere. I actually have tried to perform Reiki on myself, but I'm too impatient when it comes to myself, because if I need pain, I'm in pain. But if I could, I could. But yeah, when it comes to inflammation, that's where the cool energy is. But it's good for me. So like if I'm about to heal somebody with pain, it's like I get an electric sound in my mind, It's like a big, like electric shock, and I see a lightning bolt in my mind, and that's kind of when I know I'm good to go. It's weird to explain.
Interesting. My first, when I first got into this work, I attended an energy school that existed at the time called the Avatar Energy Master Institute, which no longer exists. But I briefly learned a little bit about healing. I gravitated more towards moving objects and stuff like that because I thought that was more cool. But they essentially taught that you can learn to kind of, I forgot what the phrase they used. They called it sensory overlap. I believe you basically overlap your energy with your person that you're trying to heal. You try to like identify where the pain is or the injury is or whatever, and then you essentially just since you're feeling that energy. And that's you basically, because we're all one. You can essentially remove that out of you, and that person's, ailment and injury and whatnot can also be removed as well. Is that kind of what you do?
I physically visualize me drawing pain out of them. So if I'm like, imagination, it's not even your imagination, it's your third eye, but visualization is everything when it comes to healing, telekinesis, and pyrokinesis. Anything when it comes to moving, healing, energy, it's all about the mind. When people say, imagine a white light going down or something like that, you do it because that's what's going to get you the result. When it comes to, when it comes to being able to actually heal and move yourself away from that, I physically can feel myself pulling the pain out, and I imagine it as like a black smoke as I'm pulling the pain out, and I can feel this dense, sticky energy in my hand while I'm doing it. It's really bad. And then when my partner had a cold, I'm literally just I'm trying to give him a bit of a healing session on his head. I could feel how like sick he was, like just how congested he was, because it was like energetically sticky, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it's like my body can pick up on exactly what's wrong, and before I even tell them what's wrong, I'm just drawn to that area of their body.
Interesting. So this, or I can't point to him.
It's bad, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. But this guy that you see in the background, I'm trying to point to him, but he is I do his practice called Fallen Dafa, which is how I raise my energy and stuff like that. But he essentially talks about, and it's so interesting that you said that you sense some kind of black energy, if you will. He talks about black chi and stuff like that. And
wow, really? Well, there you go.
Yeah. Yes, I find that really interesting that you said like dark black energy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told a friend of mine that was actually a Reiki healer. She's actually a master. And I started to figure out that I could heal and do these things, and I was a little bit scared. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really scared, but like, am I normal, man? Do I need to go get help? And when I explained to her about the lightning bolt, the electricity, she actually said, it's funny that you mentioned that, because the person where this was first actually kind of like made, or not made, but like brought out to be, I can't remember what his name, but he was a doctor, and he actually went up to the top of a mountain for 21 days. And he said, if I'm not back by the end of the 21 days, come and get my body. The 21st day, he got struck by lightning, knocked unconscious, fell to the bottom of the mountain, and came back with the ability to heal. So that's when she's like, you're probably a 5th generation Reiki healer, natural Reiki healer.
That's so interesting. So I interviewed a German, very well-known German telekinesis practitioner named Benedict, and he told me that he unlocked all his abilities after he got struck by lightning and stuff. And I could be wrong about this, but I think he told me during an interview that he that Uri Geller essentially got struck by lightning as well, and that's how he unlocked all his abilities. And stuff.
I'm not gonna say he was telling you porgies, but he was probably stealing. It could very well be true, but my first assumption and my first gut instinct on that would be that he was actually probably trying to take the story. I've never been struck by lightning, and I have these healing abilities. You know what I mean? But these, like, just the lightning bolt, like the electricity sound that I hear, and the more power I want to send out, the longer the bolt gets. It's like a game on the arcade, literally.
Interesting. So, Brianna, you currently have a radio show with your business partner and stuff like that, and you do healings on the side and readings and stuff like that. What is your guys' vision? Do you guys want to become an authority in the mediumship industry, if you will? Is that what your guys' goals are? What are your goals as far as that goes?
Well, Leslie and I basically, so Leslie's the captain of the ship essentially. So she's the one that owns it all. She's done everything. So she's actually gotten everything up to what it is now. I'm just kind of tagging along. But so basically we go live on radio SWA 99.9 FM every Wednesday night from 8 till 10 p.m. And we do live readings, and there's a lot of people there that need guidance, need closure, and they're suffering emotionally and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's hard because I don't think we actually realize the effects that we have on people. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we just want to be able to kind of get out there and influence people to be sending out love, to be loving to one another, to actually help others when they're, you know, if you're seeing someone that's less fortunate than others, don't have to go telling everybody about it, but go and help that person. You know, if you've got something proud to say, like one proud thing that you can say that you've done for someone this month, then you can, do you know what I mean? So we're really trying to get out there and change the perspective and raise the vibration of the planet. That's kind of my goal, and I know that that's what we're doing with, you know, with our readings and whatnot. So Leslie's an amazing remote viewer, man. Honestly, she's really, really good. She's impressive. And like, we're basically with that, it's very evidential, the readings that we do, which is what brings the closure. Eventually, you know, we'd like to go overseas and perform overseas and do the stage performances overseas, but that'll happen obviously when the time's right. But that's just pretty much it's a goal to help the public more than for ourselves. That's what the long-term goal is. It's not really about getting out there, becoming popular, getting well known, getting money, become famous. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about actually helping and raise the vibration of the planet, make the world a better place.
That's amazing. I definitely sense that from you as well, like that genuineness and sincerity and stuff like that. That's really cool. So Brianna, you know, you're obviously a telekinetic and stuff like that. I don't really know where I want to go with my. I mean, I know where I want to go with my spiritual pursuit, but as far as like doing this type of telekinesis media work, if you will, I don't really know where I want to go with this personally yet. I'm still kind of skeptical. I'm just kind of doing it as a hobby at this point, to be completely blunt.
I see you personally. I don't think you should give up on it, because these videos are going to make a difference in the world because of how many people you've interviewed.
I appreciate that comment.
No, seriously, even just 40 people, that's a lot of people in the government size. People, do you know what I mean? Like that's a lot of people when it comes to the government. To people that are saying that, you know, do you know what I mean? If you can actually get as many as you can interview more, it's going to show everyone that, hey, look, this is actually happening. You've been lied to for the last, you know, few thousand years.
Yeah.
This is what's actually going on. This is what you can do. That's kind of, you know, what I feel would be the best thing. You know, when it comes to the videos can show a lot and prove a lot. Even if you wanted to, I recommend getting people to do it on live telekinesis.
Right. My original question was like, I don't know whether I want to pursue to be a teacher or not, but like, do you see yourself like maybe teaching mediumship or telekinesis or like any of these other supernormal abilities?
I already do it. I already teach mediumship. So basically, I do one-on-one mentoring sessions. So spiritual development, psychic, all that kind of stuff. At any point in time they need any guidance, that's where I can kind of come in, give them an update of where, from what they've told me and what I feel that they're at in their spiritual journey, what to expect, what's happening, and don't freak out. You're not going crazy, giving that entire speech. But with you, I feel that this is going to actually help, and I do feel like it's going to go far. I think you should just keep producing them. And even if you don't want to keep doing this full time, you could teach it. Because
I'll have to really think about that for sure.
You need to start thinking outside the square. You need to start thinking outside the box here, because, you know, you might not be drawn to mediumship, which is cool. Like, I wasn't really drawn to telekinesis until the last 12 months. So I just feel that there's going to be a lot more spiritually coming up for you, and you're going to be drawn to a lot more in the next few months than you realize. So there's going to be options come up for you. Honestly, that's what I feel. I do. With your videos, just keep going on with it, because I do feel they're going to get out there. It's going to kind of outnumber it. Profession-wise, it probably won't do much, but when it comes to skeptics and people telling people, no, that's not true, you can't do that, it's going to kind of shut them up a little bit, which would be good to get everybody else into it as well. It's all part of taking little steps to kind of educate and teach in a mass.
That's wonderful, and thank you so much for saying that. I mean, coming from someone of your caliber, it really means a lot to me, so I appreciate that. So you know, we haven't touched upon like aerokinesis and stuff. Like it's always the aerokinesis demos that gets the most of it, because the thing with the airbending stuff is like even people that are very spiritual will look at that and go, that's gotta be fake. And that's what hurts me the most. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, like the spiritual community won't even back me up when it comes to that particular
I will.
ability, you know. And so they either say A, it's fake, it's CGI, or B, you're just timing it, or you know, timing like the movement of the trees or whatever, or C, they just yeah, they just think it's coincidence or something.
You know,
But
my analogy on that is that they've tried, they can't do it. They've tried, they failed, and because they feel they can't do it, they're not allowed. No one else is allowed to do it. Yeah, you might look like a bit of a strange person doing the exercises out in public, but that'd be, you know, like if anyone who knows what it is would actually understand what that's for. There's a reason behind it, and it's manifesting energy. You know what I mean? So when it comes to telekinesis and aerokinesis, pyrokinesis, it's all in the one category. You just don't give a damn what anyone else thinks. If you want to go out there and do it, you can produce results. You know what you're doing. This is where a lot of the ego and problems with ego has to happen when people have ego deaths, because when your ego dies, the soul shines. You can actually do what you want to do. You can not care about what people think. The fact that you already do telekinesis, it took me ages to come out with that, knowing that people aren't going to think I'm crazy. You know what stuff
right.
people think. Stuff what people think.
Right. Yeah, certainly. So can you briefly explain your aerokinesis and pyrokinesis experience a little bit, and some of the success stories that you have with that?
I've got one success story, well, semi-success story with the aerokinesis. So I was practicing in the kitchen, and I thought that going outside probably was a bit too easy for me, because I knew that as soon as I started doing the technique, the energy, the wind outside started to pick up. So I'm like, oh, we're not going to go outside. But then, like, I actually noticed, I focused on like a certain tree, and I focused on that energy, and actually you could see the leaves ruffling and all that kind of stuff. There wasn't much wind that day, so my partner actually wasn't home, but he was coming home, and then all of a sudden he actually felt the massive gust of wind. And then he walks in and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, all right, you busted me. So this is kind of what I'm doing. But I said, look, watch this. And then I kind of made the energy rise and the energy fall. And he's like, I'm going for another walk. It freaked him out a little bit. And for the pyrokinesis, bro, that just started by sitting in front of it. Like literally a candle was on the table, and I was just staring at it. And there was a room full of my two friends and their son and myself. So I had a bit of an audience, and I was just, you know, it started with making it dance, move to side to side. And there was no one near breathing proximity with this candle either. So I even had my shirt up over my face like that, and it was just shrink, grow, left, right. And then on my way home from my friend's house that night, there was a 44-gallon drum that was actually housing a fire. And I asked this guy for a cigarette, as you do in Mount Druitt. I asked this guy for a cigarette, and he goes inside and gets one for me, and I'm just focusing on the fire. Totally not even realizing that I'm kind of telekinetic with it, you know, just kind of not thinking about anything. And I'm noticing that the fire's starting to shrink. What I didn't notice was that when the fire shrank and he came back out, he startled me, and I lost concentration on the fire, and the fire just like rose back up again. It wasn't a, but it was like it came back up rather quickly. And then, yeah, my partner's like, yeah, you're not playing with fire anymore. But any time of that, I've literally been able to, make it. I haven't been able to put it out yet. That'll come. I'll get to that eventually. But yeah, shrinking and making it dance is definitely something that I'm able to do.
That is amazing. That is so cool. How did I always want to ask people about aerokinesis and how they discovered it. Did you, because was it just pure coincidence? Like you just went outside and you're like, oh, I can move the wind, like, or did you get an inspiration from watching a YouTube channel? How did you discover that?
I was trying to learn how to close doors from telekinesis from a distance. That's what I was learning. That's what I was like looking up, and that's where aerokinesis has kind of come in as like a. People can use aerokinesis as a replacement to telekinesis if they can't do it, because they can use the wind to close doors. They can, that kind of stuff. Right, telekinesis, right. Moving doors is different to making the air do it. Right. So I kind of stumbled upon that when I was looking at, moving, like, closing the door with telekinesis, and then aerokinesis came into it, and I'm like, what's aerokinesis? And then I'm like, yeah, bro, this isn't going to work, man. Honestly, I mean, you could see when he was doing it, it was actually working. He was explaining exactly how to do it, all the movements that you had to do, the breathing techniques and everything. And he did not give a single damn about what anyone else was thinking. There were people walking past him, people were doing this, and he just didn't didn't break focus, didn't care. He was trying to show something and educate, which was really, really cool. And you know, he there was so many videos of examples of, right, I'm gonna do this, right? So watch that thing over there. You should turn the camera over there to focus. With doing the techniques, you'd actually see the results. And there's no way in hell that there would be a giant fan outside, or you know, like it just doesn't happen like that. So that was kind of where I got into it, and then that was the day I kind of started or tried it in the kitchen, and that's what happened for me.
Very cool. That is so interesting. Let's see. Let's see. Is there anything I need to ask or I haven't asked? I think that is about it. So, Brianna, what is your ultimate goal in your spiritual pursuit? You know, do you want to, you know, like you know, we touched upon reincarnation, how you don't necessarily want to come back and stuff like that. What is your ultimate goal that you want to achieve in your spiritual pursuit?
My priority is to raise the vibration of the planet. That is my ultimate goal, is raising the vibration of the planet to bring everybody up to you know, up to speed with consciousness and, you know, global awakening and ascension. That's pretty much what it is for me. There's no selfish, or not selfish, but there's no self-motivated goal. It's literally the fact that if I'm here to do what I have to do, and that's kind of what I'm doing.
Interesting. What is your opinion, Brianna? I've heard so many different answers. Some people say this superpower stuff should only be kept to a certain group of people until, you know, for the next 50 years or something like that, or forever.
You've got it and flaunt it. Seriously, if you've got it, go and flaunt it. People are going to want you to keep it aside. Why would you? If you've got a gift, use it.
What is your opinion? Do you see, from your intuitive point of view, like, do you think we're going to be at the point where everybody's going to be doing this stuff pretty soon, or do you think it's always going to...
I do. There's a lot of people that are actually starting to do it now, and there's a lot of people that are waking up. And with waking up, that's where telekinesis, aerokinesis, and all that kind of gets, you know, it triggers curiosity. But I do see the world being a very, very different place in about 20 to 50 years. And that's where the new earth is going to kind of come to light, where people are going to be living in 5D. They're going to be wanting to help each other instead of wanting to kill each other. So it's going from 3D to 5D. When it comes to, you know, when it comes to making an example of yourself with being able to do things that we can do, that's where people are going to start becoming brave, as I was saying yesterday. So you've got to be the brave one to try and get it out there and not worry about what anyone else thinks. You can do what you can do, and no one's going to tell you that you can't if you can.
Right.
I mean, yeah, like no one apart from telekinesis have said that's not real. That's not real. I know that it's real. I sat there for 6 damn hours trying to make the damn thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, I really appreciate you saying that, and it's almost like, you know, like, you know, you earlier you mentioned that you wanted to do a session on me and stuff like that. I mentioned that I was afraid, and to be completely honest, I think I'm afraid because I'm afraid of the ridicule. I'm afraid of,
that's your ego.
Like, you know, charging people money and stuff, and like I feel bad, like I have all these doubts about myself and stuff, and you know, I don't know, it's just maybe
I can understand that. And it's, you know what, when I started doing this, I had such a bad case of imposter syndrome, it was not even funny. You know, the accuracy that I had and the evidence that I had and the validations that I had, I'm like, this can't be right. You know, you do ridicule yourself, but when you start hanging out with people that believe in themselves and actually believe in you, then it makes a big difference. You know, when you have, like, you know, charging people, you've got to eat. You've got to eat. You've got to know your worth. Like, I would not be, you know, I know my worth as a medium. Do you know what I mean? And it's just because people are paying me. It's for my energy, which is very valuable, very, very valuable. Very exhausting to be able to connect to spirit, do these readings for people. It is tiring, and it's time consuming, and you're using a lot of energy to gain these answers for these individuals, and you know, it's all about give and take. You do deserve to have something out of it. You shouldn't be doing it for free. That's just my opinion, though, because of how I know how toxic it is, and I've done a lot of free readings for people, and it just it leaves you feeling good, but it's just it's you could be doing other things with people that are actually wanting to, you know, financially ponying up the dough, because it's not something. It's, you know, people want an hour. The sessions go for like an hour to an hour and a half sometimes. Free.
Certainly. Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. And I will definitely have to really think about my future and stuff. And maybe I met you just to gain a little bit of push,
Well, that's
and
what
confidence on
a lot of
myself.
people say that. A lot of people say that, and if you need a spiritual teacher or a mentor or something to help get you there, then that's exactly what That's exactly what I do. I actually help people gain some confidence and exactly what you're doing. Knowledge.
Right.
It's never anything bad. It's just adapting to change, really.
Right. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, definitely. I'll have to definitely, really take what you just said to heart and really, really think about this for sure. So, yeah. Okay.
The seed has been planted.
Yes, it's definitely been planted for sure. Okay, Brianna, I think we're ready to wrap this up. I possibly have another interview
Yeah, they're all
coming
good. No worries.
so yeah. So is there any final thoughts? Maybe we should introduce your websites and your social media
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, so go to Psychics on Radio, Angels on Air, and it's a pink logo. That's where Leslie and I go live, and you'll see it every week. You'll see it every week. And then there's Psychic Medium Brianna Wilson. And then if you wanted to go check out Leslie's page, that's Psychic Medium Leslie Spellavero as well. So if you just type it in, you'll see you can't miss us. You won't miss this face, the pink logo, or the other blondie that's on the team. So yeah, we looking forward to getting to know everyone. Really, it's going to be good to be part of this extravagant group. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Brianna. You're awesome, and we really had a fantastic conversation. I believe we
it was good.
Gained a lot of gave a lot of value to people that are watching. So thank you so much, Brianna, and thank you for your time. And I wish you luck in your spiritual journey as well as your business endeavors and stuff like that. So
you too, mate. You too.
okay.
All right, take it easy.
Bye bye.
See ya.